What's good, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Full Circle. I'm your host, as always, Harmon Jr. Please feel free to find me at Harmon Jr. across all your favorite social media sites, wherever they may be. And, if I don't have it, you won't find me because I feel like there's like one famous Odell that throws footballs, and then there's me, and then there's like my dad, but he doesn't like do technology. So not that hard to find, I promise. We did it, people. We are in, the final countdown of shows for the year. There's only 2 more shows after this, people. Be excited. Then we're going to start the new year off strong with some surprise guests. But I have a great friend of mine. We haven't met physically, but that don't matter because the internet is a real space, not the metaverse. We don't count that, not here on this show. But I would like to welcome for the first time Wesley LeBlanc. How are you doing today, sir?
Hello. I'm doing good. I'm super excited to be here. This is going to be a good time.
Man, that's great. I appreciate you joining me because this is a busy time of year, and especially when you're working. And Wesley, just in case people don't know, who are you and what do you do?
So I am Game Informer's newest associate editor. I've been there for actually, I just had my 2-month anniversary. So
Congratulations.
That's pretty neat. Yeah, thank you. I've been there since October, but I've kind of been around the industry since 2017. I basically graduated journalism school and then kind of got started working at some smaller sites and kind of just worked my way up the ladder. And then for the past 2 years, I was freelancing at IGN, doing guides, news, pretty much everything, features, reviews, you name it. Applied for Game Informer earlier this year, did not get the job. It went to a very excellent writer named Jill there. And then a couple months later, I got another call from the editor-in-chief, and he was like, we've got a position and we want you to take it. So I immediately said yes, hung up the phone, cried, and now I am working at Game Informer.
I love that story, especially in my mind, the way you told it. It was like, you want the job? Yes, click. No further up comments.
No details, yeah. Yeah, I just immediately go and quit my job, and I'm like, sorry. And then they're like, wait, no, you can't start for like a month. And I'm like, okay.
Well, congratulations, sir. Well deserved. You are already making a great impact. So kudos to you. So everybody, make sure you go to GameInformer.com, my former alma mater, and read all that delicious news. News. So, all right, as always, we got some great topics for you today. This is going to be the VGA Video Game Awards 2021 holiday special recap, whatever you want to call it. Jingle bells, Christmas music, let the snow fall. But before we get into that, because there's a lot to say about the VGAs this year. A lot. It's a mixed bag. I won't lie to you people. But before we go down that, Santa's sack of toys and coal, we're going to be talking about Sonic the Hedgehog 2, the movie trailer, because it's out. It's kind of dope. It's kind of cool. But before that, and you know me, I always tell people, this is not a Nintendo show, but we talk about Nintendo a lot. I say this is not a stomp on Xbox show, even though we do that a lot. And then we stopped doing that, and then we started doing that, and then it became Game Pass is amazing, but it's Xbox bad. But we're not doing that today either. But one of the things I swore to you we would not talk about again, we got to do it one more time, and I'm sorry, and that's Grand Theft Auto 5. Just like people won't stop buying it, Jesus, we cannot stop talking about it because they keep doing stuff. The game released damn near a decade. It's 9 years and some change at this point. And if you didn't know, people, Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. It's been the best-selling game for I don't know how long. I don't know who's buying it. They're tipping the scales, Wesley. I don't know. But
I know who does not own this game yet.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Because, okay, let's say you're a parent who doesn't know games. You just buy your kid whatever. It's like they've already had it for the past and current generation. That's 2 times you bought the game. So I'm like, all right, yeah. I'll give it to you twice. Maybe when it first came out, maybe when it came out for next gen. But other than that, I don't know. Maybe start selling in China, which I think is a
they're about to buy. They're about to buy it again when it comes out on PS5 and Xbox One or Xbox Series X, and they're going to make so much more money.
Oh man, but as you know, you're the news man. The story here is that Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg was not working on GTA 6. They're working on the first story DLC for GTA 5. And Wesley, I don't know about you, but I'm like, I could have used this like 5 years ago because I'm not putting the game back in my system. I'm not.
Mm-hmm. It's tempting though. They got Anderson .Paak too, and he's one of my favorites right now. And like, it's just crazy to see like the trailer, and you're like, oh, Dr. Dre's in it, Snoop Dogg, Anderson .Paak, and you're like, oh, maybe they got the music in there, like maybe they made some new songs. And no, they're just like legit in the game as characters in GTA now. Like Dr. Dre is someone you just talk to in Grand Theft Auto, and that is just mind blowing.
Right? It really is. And it's like, oh, look, it's actually canonically, chronologically, like 5 years in the future, whatever. You see Franklin as an adult or more of an adult, more mature, I guess. and this seems really cool because I am a stan of GTA 4. I think GTA 4 gets zero love and it deserves all of it. Mm-hmm. And the GTA 4 DLC is what elevated it into like god tier status for me. The Ballad of Gay Tony and the Hell and the Damn, the biker gang one. I forgot what it was called. So So I know GTA DLC can be phenomenal, but I just can't. I think the official statement, quote unquote, was that GTA Online was making so much money and it cost so much money to do story driven DLC, and they weren't sure people were gonna buy it. And I'm like, really?
I know, right?
Okay. Okay, Rockstar. So tinfoil hat time, Wesley. Why do you think they did this and now? And why? And do you think it's free because GTA Trilogy was a bomb?
Yeah, I do think that's part of it for sure. Like Rockstar is feeling a little bit of the heat, so whether they already had this loaded up and ready to go or it's something they put together, it is interesting the timing of it. They're going to win some goodwill back, I think, and I think they're going to keep doing it. One, because it's just another opportunity to bring in people that somehow haven't played this game yet. I guess if you haven't played GTA 5, but you hear Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Anderson .Paak, like maybe that's your way in. And now all of a sudden you're in GTA Online, you're buying the shark cards, you're spending money, and Rockstar's making even more money. Also, we've got the new gen version of the game coming out like next year sometime. I don't remember the date off the top of my head. But yeah, why not try to pull people in before that comes out and then have them spend $60 next year on the new gen version?
The honest question, which, February is coming up, so we all know how that's going to go down. But is there any world or universe where you actually, load up GTA 5 and play this DLC?
Probably not, to be honest. I mean, I'm busy like with other games, and as tempting as it is, like it seems like something I could maybe watch the cutscenes for on YouTube. I haven't played GTA 5 in a while, but it's a 10-year-old game at this point, and from what I've heard, trying to jump in now, like after not playing for a while, can be a little tough in terms of just controls or systems and everything. Like GTA Online is a beast, and jumping in to do a story DLC, I don't know, does Rockstar kind of onboard you well, or do they just assume that you know exactly what you're doing in their online game?
That's a good question. It's still wild to think about this game exists across 3 generations of systems.
Like unheard of. Is there, I guess, I can't think of any other game. Maybe Final Fantasy 14, but I don't know if you can play that on PS3 anymore.
I don't think so, but even then, that's a live service game. This is
yeah.
I mean, if you want to be cynical about it, literally the same game, not updated, because you're not forced to play GTA Online. I mean, you probably should if you have it, but the base game is minus some graphical improvements. I assume because I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
It's the same base game. It's not like GTA 5 remastered or remake or anything to that nature. Besides a high res. So I just think that's wild. Speaking of that, seeing how GTA 5 has existed for the past damn near decade, do you see GTA 6 being a live service game?
I low key am kind of worried that GTA 6 is just a big Grand Theft Auto MMO type of game. Like we're clearly seeing Rockstar is not so concerned with like single player story stuff. I don't know if I mean GTA 6 probably needs to have a single player story. That's the bread and butter of getting people into GTA, and then you kind of lure them into online. But I mean, shoot, at this point, like, do they need it? There's 100 million people playing GTA Online. Can they just launch GTA 6 and be like, it's a new map, it's here's some story, but it's all in our online game, and you can play with friends and do all this? Like, I am a little worried that we might not get single player um, in GTA 6, but hopefully they don't do that because I think it's not the right call.
Yeah, it's weird because clearly they've proven it could live as an MMO. Clearly,
Mhm.
no
Yeah.
doubt about that. But it's like, would that be the right creative call? And I agree with you. I really think it needs to be a single player mode because I remember I tried
Mhm.
to jump in GTA Online a year after its launch because when it first launched, it was real messy. You would log in and just
Yeah.
get gunned down and ran over within like 5 seconds. And then when it became good and everyone's like, yeah, this is the place to be. Like, I didn't have any money. I was so far under leveled. It really wasn't fun to play. And people are like, oh, you got to run with a crew for a while before. I'm just like, okay, this is too much. Like, this has gone from
Yeah.
fun to like, tactician level of stuff. I
Yeah,
I
like you
rather
actually have to go and find a crew and run jobs and stuff. It's like I'm just trying to play a video game. I'm not trying to work.
yeah, it's like I would be playing World of Warcraft and go kill 100 chickens before I do this. Jeez.
Right? Yeah.
But ultimately, we'll see where that goes and how that turns out. Um, I don't know, the GTA Online trilogy. I was honestly excited for because I've never actually fully played Grand Theft Auto 3. Like I was there like, oh, I'm 10. Oh, look at me, I'm doing random acts of violence, and that was it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was excited, but I'll wait till I don't know if are they planning on patching it or updating it, like other than like a sorry. I haven't heard no plans of fixing it, so I'm kind of confused on that
They've
front.
said like they're aware that it's not up to standard and that they're working on it, but it's a different team. Like it's not Rockstar that developed it. They had I forget the name of the company, but it was like a third party company that they worked with. So I mean, hopefully that team can get it under control. But yeah, I hope Rockstar fixes it. I'm in the same boat as you. I actually haven't played or beaten any of the games in the collection. I've played all of them like to an extent, but like you mentioned, I was like 10 years old, so I didn't even know like beating a game was a thing. I just kind of ran around and shot stuff and put cheats in, and
Played the game the way it was meant to be played.
yeah, exactly.
All right, so before we get into the Game Awards stuff, one thing we did get out the Game Awards, which I thought was really cool and was honestly one of my top 3 highlights, was we got the Sonic 2 trailer, and we got a little open mic from Ben Schwartz. He's cool. He's not Jaleel White.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is they got the original voice actor for Tails. I'm like, y'all could have got Jaleel White, even though he's not the original video game voice actor. Canonically, in my mind, he is Sonic. Like, if it's not
Yeah.
if it's not a video game, it is Jaleel White. But I digress. I've spoken about that before, and I won't do it here. But what did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was a good trailer. I love that they're leaning more into just the Sonic zaniness. It's interesting that they are not making Sonic and Tails and Knuckles like friends. I at the end of the first one they have like the post credit scene or whatever, but it'll be interesting to see them like become the trio that we know in the games, and I think that'll be fun to develop. Probably the smart call because now they have even more movies they can make where we get to see them go on more adventures and become friends and stuff. But I thought it was an interesting choice where Tails pops up and he's like, "Who are you? You have a plane."
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, Sonic and Knuckles weren't friends to begin with, so like I guess they're staying true to the video game roots, and they're gonna go that route with it, which Eggman tricked Knuckles in some way, and they're gonna become
Yeah.
buddies, and if Sonic 3 isn't called Sonic 3 and Knuckles, then I'll riot, but I
Yeah.
thought it was a good effort, and I honestly think like the internet echo chamber of nonsense is 99.9% wrong and lethal and toxic. But this is the one time everybody gets one where it just needed to happen, because Wesley, I honestly believe if the echo chamber did not force Paramount to basically rework that movie, I don't think we would even see Sonic 2. I don't think that was a universe where Sonic 2 existed.
Yeah, Ben Schwartz even made that joke on stage. He was like, thanks for complaining about the teeth. For real, it was the right call, and now Sonic's better.
Yeah, because let's say it was 1-for-1 exactly the same. I think, more or less it was. I think they redid some scenes, maybe reworked the story slightly. But let's just say it was the same Sonic 1 we saw, but with, I don't know what to refer to that Sonic as. Let's just call him Teeth Sonic. Do you think the movie just would have bombed? Like, people just would have just ran it into the ground? Because I thought the movie was a solid effort. Not the best thing ever, but like definitely as a hardcore Sonic fan, I was like, yeah, I'm jiving with this.
Yeah, I think like even if the story was good, that Sonic Teeth Sonic was disturbing. Like, it would not have been enjoyable to watch, because every time he's on screen, you would just be looking at his mouth and his teeth and get freaked out by it. And he would have become like Sonic's already an icon, but like you can see the movie Sonic now and be like, oh yeah, it's the movie Sonic. Awesome. That would not be happening if we still had the original Sonic. People would be like, get that thing away from me.
Burn him with fire. Even with the teeth, it was the oddly too human hands. He was just too human to period. I don't know. I can't think of any way to say that.
It's odd too, because we have movies where like characters don't need to look humanoid if they're not like super humanoid. I mean, Sonic does, have some human qualities, but like, why did they choose to make his mouth and teeth and face and hands like so realistic? Why? Especially now that we know what we have, like, how did they not land on that themselves? Why did they need us to be like, maybe we don't do this?
I don't know. I always assume, and I could be wrong, people, but there's like some old person, like, super CEO exec who's like plus 50, making like, more money than I could ever hope to see in my life. And he's making the calls on this, and everyone else knows this is probably the wrong call, but they're like, what? I mean, I'm not about to get fired.
Right. Yeah. They're like, that's on him.
Yeah. And that's what I assume. Like, or either maybe it's even the worst case where like no one just bothered to like play a game and was just like, hey, I saw some fan art one time and this is what he looked like. So that's what he looks like.
Yeah, they were on like DeviantArt or something. They were like, this guy, this is what he looks like.
Yeah, but what's even more crazy to me is that they were able to get Tails' original voice actor Idris Elba, and it's like, man, what did the budget look like? Because y'all really went out here.
I know the internet immediately, the second I heard Idris Elba as Knuckles, because he said he was not going to try to make the voice, sexy and all that, but it's Idris Elba. He talks as Knuckles, and I was like, okay, I got to get on Twitter. Let's see what people are saying. And sure enough, the world is simping for Knuckles now.
It was funny to me because I was like, is he gonna? Because I've heard him done non-British accents before. He's played many roles. Yeah. Well, I think every British actor can talk like an American, because it blows my mind when I'm watching an interview with insert person I thought was purely American. They're like, oh, the Queen, and I'm like, oh my goodness. What?
Yeah, right.
Mind blown.
I feel that.
Yeah, but no, this was just Idris Elba with like a tough guy. I was like, oh yeah, that's. And then I think I saw an article about The Verge, and I was like, oh yeah, it's happening.
Yep, it took minutes. The internet is that when that movie comes out, it's gonna change things.
The illegal pet market for a Kinda is gonna go up 200%.
Right, yeah. They made him cool too. Like the first time we see him, he just immediately puts Sonic in his place. It was pretty sick.
Right? Oh man, good stuff. You know what? I'm glad they did their research. They're bringing in the Chaos Emeralds. Well, we saw the Master Emerald, so I assume the Chaos Emerald's gonna play some part. So I'm hoping for some epic supersonic action at some point, but we'll see. We will.
That would be awesome. They have to do it. It's coming either in this movie or in 3. It has to be.
It has to be. But, all right, Wesley, we've been talking good stuff. Now it's time to be journalists and be critical and and say some things that people may not like. I'm kidding, people.
Yeah.
It may be, man. I don't know. It depends on where you stand. So I want to go ahead before we say anything about the show. I want to go ahead and get this off my chest. The Video Game Awards is a interesting award show in the sense that I remember going to the first two shows and it being amazing. Not a lot of people there. Like I don't think even major journalists were going maybe until year 4. But definitely years 1 and 2. I don't really remember. I didn't go to year 3. But year 4, that's when it started to be like, oh, okay, you know, the IGNs, the GameSpots of the world, you know, they're showing up. But the first years, that wasn't the case. Like, honestly, I remember year 1, you didn't even need a ticket. You just had to show up.
Really? What year was that?
This was 2014.
Probably?
Yeah. You didn't even need a ticket. I got a ticket, but no one checked. You just basically showed up to the building around showtime. Like, seats were plentiful. Year 2, I think you didn't even need to be pressed. You just had to request a ticket. You just simply had to go to the site, say you wanted a ticket. You know, the max was like, I think the max, you could have requested 4 tickets. And then if you needed more than 4, you could have just...
That's crazy.
Yeah, you could have just went back in. But, you know, it was hype. You know, the Greg Miller speech when he won...
Trending gamer.
Yeah, trending gamer. Yeah, I couldn't remember. It wasn't like, you know, best personality. They gave it some other name.
Trending gamer.
Yeah, you know, and you know, we had moments like that. We had really big moments, but you know, not a lot of press, not a lot of big crowd. But you know, but the more it shifted into a more traditional, you know, Grammys, you know, Oscars, if you will, it seemed the show has become lackluster. And that was like kind of just like, you know, something people knows. But this year seemed to just, you know, exaggerate that in every which way. Any problem that people have with the Game Awards, it just seemed to be, you know, from the most of the awards just being, you know, happening basically off screen, you know, either in the pre-show or like what you would consider like the bumpers. And, you know, we got, you know, we got big name personalities that don't really seem to have anything to do with gaming one way or another, announcing games. You know, I got nothing against Hollywood actors and NBA stars, but
Simu Liu, I might be saying that wrong, but Simu Liu from Shang-Chi, and his like little jokey speech was that he'd rather be at home playing Halo, but I was like, I think I would also rather be playing Halo right now. I actually feel you. He might have even been serious. Like, I would rather be home playing Halo. Poor dude probably has just showed up because, you know, that's how the Hollywood actors go as far as getting on that show. And then he's got to sit through 3.5 hours. It's a lot.
Yeah, man. That is... I wasn't even probably going to touch on that, but the show was 3.5 hours. And what realistically people said could have been condensed to an hour and a half. Honestly, an hour if you really wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's such an interesting thing because, like, I understand people want more of the awards, and there should be more, especially, like, they had best score happen off stage, which is nuts because score is such a big part of video games. Stuff like that needs to be on the main stage, but it's also, like, he has to get money to make the show a thing, and he has to get viewership so that he can put the show on next year. And to get viewership, he's got to have reveals. It's this big circle that, like, builds on itself. So, like, I understand why it almost has to feel like E3, but there's got to be a better balance. In fact, I think previous years have balanced it better, in my opinion. This one felt so long and drawn out, and like you mentioned, all the problems we've had with previous ones were kind of exaggerated this year.
Yeah, and no, I agree with you. Say, you know, that coach said, I understand that, you know, money is always an important factor. You know, video games, any company. But you know, I really feel like, okay, so the event is basically streamed on all these platforms and whatnot, and you know, and we do get, you know, the typical gaming commercial spots. It's weird. I say commercials, but I don't know whether to call them because, you know, it's not like televised. So
yeah,
just
it's weird too because sometimes I'm like, is this a commercial or is this a game reveal? Because some of the commercials revealed things, and then I'm like, do I cover this or is this an ad? It's an interesting, you know, kind of line to walk there.
Oh yeah, you know, the little Dinky commercial where it showed like 100 keys. I was like, are those keys real? Can I rewind
the Pete Hine ones?
And redeem this? But yeah, I feel like, okay, so the reveals, I'm cool. If it was literally here's an hour of world premiere reveals, I think I'm kind of cool with that. And I don't have a problem, but I feel like, especially if it's 3 hours, there has to be time for every main award. Let's just say every award, because I don't feel like anyone should have to be, subjugated to off stage, off screen reveal.
Yeah.
Like, they should have their time to come up, speak. And if that means if we gotta cut Sting's performance, which I don't know why he's there every year. Like,
that was so funny.
Are him and Jeff Keighley just buds? I'm like, Sting, do you need money? I feel like you don't. Maybe you do.
No, I think he's doing just fine. He seems so tired too. I was like, he started the show basically. I was joking with my friends. I was like, he's got to go to bed now. I don't think he wanted to be up this late, because he was. He did good, but he did not seem into it. But I guess that's what happens when you bring someone like Sting to a Game Awards show.
Yeah, I'll never like to talk about problems without solutions, but I imagine it shouldn't be hard to get, Razer, Alienware, Sony, Nintendo, Xbox, some big companies with money to just basically plaster their name all over the stuff. Like, because, okay, like Gillette Razors was a big sponsor. Like, I was watching on YouTube and the advertisement kept popping up, or like, let's say, my buffering got a little too far behind. Like, I'm getting the Twitter notifications, but somehow I'm 30 seconds behind, so I kept reloading it. And I'm like, I feel like Gillette shouldn't be the biggest sponsor for this, and an odd sponsor to have. For me personally, I don't know. Maybe a lot of people are like, damn, I really should get a new Razer.
Yeah, it is weird. It's not something you would generally connect with games, like you mentioned, when there's hundreds of game companies out there, big names, Razer, stuff like that. Gillette Razer is interesting for sure.
That would have been funny if Gillette Razer and Razer, the PC company, were the two sponsors, because that would just, I don't know, that I would have had fun with that.
A Gillette Razer laptop.
Presented by Razer and Razer, but spelled like the cool way.
That would have been awesome. An RGB Gillette Razer.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that was, what, in the world of KFC chicken fryer game machines, and SpongeBob Xboxes and Xbox mini fridges and Skyrim playable on smart refrigerators, which is still a weird thing to say. Why not? Why not at this point? Okay, so I want to talk about this elephant in the room, the biggest elephant in the room for me, before we talk about anything else. How did you feel about that Game of the Year award pick?
It was not something I predicted at all. I played It Takes Two, but I guided it for IGN, so I didn't have the best experience with it, just because when you're guiding a game, it's different than playing a game. But I still enjoyed the game. But compared to Deathloop and Metroid Dread and some of the other games up there, I was like, It Takes Two does not have a shot. And sure enough, it won, and it kind of blew my mind. I will say Josef Fares' speech, I was expecting a little more. It was a good speech, but his Oscar speech, is pretty infamous with the Game Awards. I was kind of hoping he'd come out guns swinging and guns blazing again this time, but he kept it cool, and good for him. It's cool to see a smaller developer, even though he's got the EA funding. He seems like a good dude, and I'm sure he's super stoked. One of our editors was at one of the little meetups after the Game Awards, and he was there. Josef Fares was there, and he said he was like freaking out and having a really good time. So good for him.
Yeah, good for him. Good for him. I'll add the disclaimer, people. We're talking about games, not the people who make them. We're no attacks on them. They're all great people. As we know, developers deserve all the love in the world. Because without all their thankless hours, we basically wouldn't have a job or anything to do or talk about, and we'll have to go outside and play what stick in a hoop. What do kids do nowadays?
Right? Yeah, I don't even know.
But okay, so going in, the nominees were Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet and Clank, Deathloop, Resident Evil 7 Village, or Resident Evil Village. How do you pronounce that game? It's Resident Evil 7 Village, right? Or do you just say Village?
I think it's 8, but I don't know if eight's
Oh.
even in the name. They do that thing with like the RE and then they highlight the V.
It is 8. You're right. Resident Evil 7 was the one in Louisiana. Excuse me. Resident Evil 8 Resident Evil Village. Screw it.
Just Village. There you go.
and It Takes Two. So I remember thinking, Resident Evil isn't winning. Not winning. And I was like, It Takes Two, not winning. So in my mind, it was like, ooh, Ratchet and Clank, Deathloop, Psychonauts 2, Metroid Dread. I was like, Metroid Dread probably won't. Probably won't. So I was like, Psychonauts 2, good chance. But I was like, against Ratchet and Clank, I don't know. Yeah. I'll probably lean towards Ratchet and Clank. And so in my mind, it was Ratchet and Clank or Deathloop. Those were the only two conceivable options.
So, I was like, I would have bet my life it was Deathloop. That it got 10s from a lot of outlets. People, probably one of the most talked about games of the year, especially on that list. And I haven't spoken to many people that didn't absolutely love Deathloop. So I would have bet everything on it. And It Takes Two. I mean, it came out early in the year, I guess, so maybe that's why people aren't talking about it right now. But I don't know. I just did not expect It Takes Two at all.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because so I remember. I admit when I'm wrong. I remember before It Takes Two came out. I mean, people were all over it, and I was like, really? Why? Yeah. Like, I mean, it looks like a cool co-op game, but And then I played it, and I was like, okay. The game started off, but it is a game that genuinely gets better with each level. Like, graphically, gameplay wise, it mixes up. It's fun. It's quirky, and I would argue is the best co-op game in probably the last decade. Not multiplayer people, specifically co-op. 2 people, same screen.
Yeah,
probably the best co-op game in a long time. And I was like, I'll admit it. This is a good game. It will probably get some Game of the Year nominations, but Game of the Year, I'm like, okay. First and foremost, the story is asinine. If you ask me. It just is. I'm not saying it's bad, but it's like mommy and daddy are getting divorced. Oh no, I'm this little book of love guy. Y'all like, it's one of those games like you're not playing it for the story. No one is playing It Takes Two.
It got best family game too, which is funny because the game is about like divorce and a girl who's traumatized by it, and it was. I mean, I guess people could play it with their kids, but I don't know. That'd be kind of risky, you know.
I don't know. Spoiler alert: you did murder an elephant. Not really, but if you play the game,
that's the real elephant in the room. It's the one that we all killed.
Yeah, that was the best part of the game, honestly, because it got dark real quick, and it was like I thought they weren't gonna do it. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, it was brutal.
But yeah, I don't know. Like in my mind, I was talking to my friend, and I was like, man, this feels rigged. Like it's. I'm pretty sure
you just want Joseph on stage.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, with that said, I feel like okay. So Deathloop won best creative direction, I believe.
Yeah. And it got something else too.
Yeah, and then Metroid Dread won Best Action Adventure Game, which I was surprised but well deserved. On that one. Agreed. But with that said, every other Game of the Year nominee I feel like got snubbed because none of them won any award. It's like Ratchet and Clank winning nothing, just kind of
right. Yeah, like, that is mind blowing.
And you know, I guess one could argue that Ratchet and Clank is just a up-res game of what Ratchet and Clank always is. You know, if someone's like, it didn't bring anything new to the table technically, I'd be like, I can understand that argument. But, you know, it's in the same sense that, you know, does Zelda or Mario really bring something new? It's just extremely well polished and good.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know,
and the SSD stuff with the loading and all that. I wasn't like I really loved Rift Apart, but the further I get away from it, the more I kind of fizzled on it. Kind of for the same reason you just mentioned, where it was kind of just more Ratchet and Clank. Like, and I think I wanted more out of the story as well. Not to spoil it, but the story kind of ends where I thought like it should have gotten to halfway through. Like the whole conceit of the game is the ending, and then it's just like, oh, maybe in the next game. But yeah, for it to get snubbed completely, and then same with Psychonauts too. I don't think Psychonauts got a single
It did
award
not.
either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll say
Um,
Psychonauts 2 was
that's
probably the biggest snubby. I don't know how to verbify that of the show.
yeah. Inscription was another one that I was surprised didn't get anything. It didn't get nominated as much, I think, because it didn't really pick up steam till like just recently. But I played it last weekend, and I beat it in like 2 sessions. That became my game of the year. Returnal was my game of the year, and then Inscription became mine. And then best indie game of the year was Kena Bridge of Spirits, and I was very surprised that Inscription did not get it.
Oh, I was extremely surprised. I haven't played Kenya. I know it's a great time based off reviews and what people were saying, especially when they just kind of released it. Like it, the way I feel about Kenya is it was announced, it looked cool, but then the zeitgeist kind of forgot about it until it was released. Like, hey, Kenya Bridge of Spirits is out, and it's like, oh yeah, that game that looked cool from like months ago or a year ago or whenever y'all announced it. But like, yeah.
Also, it's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no! I was just gonna say with who was going against. I really thought when they had them, I was like, oh, this is Death Doors or Inscription, one of the two. Like again, these are the top two front runners. It's gonna be one of them, and either or will be well deserved. So again, yeah, I was surprised because like compared to who was up against, I didn't think Kenya stood a chance.
It's interesting not to like dog Kenna's developers because they did a great job, but for best indie, they had funding from PlayStation and Epic Games. So like they are still independently developed, but like where do you cross the line of being an indie and then being an independent game that's heavily funded by some of the biggest companies in the world?
Yeah, it's weird because I don't know. It's an extreme gray area because it's like Cuphead. Cuphead's an indie game that Microsoft poured countless resources into. So it's like, are you an indie game at that point?
Yeah, especially when like other indie games come out, and like Inscription was a one-man developer. I mean, he got Devolver's publishing behind it, so they hooked him up. But yeah, that's one single dude just made one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, and I would argue Devolver, they're double A, maybe even single, depending on how you. I don't know where they will fall, but they're not a giant themselves. I mean, they make good stuff and they're well known, but they're not huge.
They're not a PlayStation or an Epic Games or a Microsoft.
Yeah, it's weird because even from I'm not saying an indie game can't look AAA, but Kenya clearly looks like a up to date full 3D world. It's got all the bells and whistles of a AAA game. So
yeah, it was announced at the PS5 reveal, I think, or something related to the PS5, like last year is where it was revealed. And it's because it looks like a freaking movie. It looks amazing.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm with you on that. And the only studio I feel like that could look AAA, quote unquote, but still isn't because it's probably Supergiant Games. Like they're pretty big, but they're still their bigness is solely from their projects. And even Hades doesn't look like a 10-year $2 billion project. It's just a well polished game.
Yeah.
I really want to play Encryption, but I don't really do well with scary games. And I know it's not like a game where I have to like move around and fight zombies, but how scary is that game? Like on the fear factor.
It's not too scary. It's not like jump scares like Resident Evil or anything like that. It is a horror game in some respects, but like horror is not what I jump to first. I don't know if you've ever done like an escape room, but like it's more of an escape room kind of mystery deck builder that happens to be with a touch of horror. And the true horror only is in the first couple of hours. Then some things kind of shift and happen. It becomes less horror, more thriller. But yeah, I think even if someone's like, I don't mess with horror games. I've never played Resident Evil. Like those, I don't like scary movies. I think Inscription's still something you could play and not get too scared.
Okay, cool. I'll probably check it out. That'll probably be one of my Christmas break. Let me knock this out in a day or two games since you said it was only 2 sessions.
Well, it's about a 10-hour game. I just loved it so much that I sat down for 5 hours straight each time. It's really, really good though, and it's one of those games where, well, one, don't like read about it or look up anything about it. Like just play it and enjoy it. But yeah, it just keeps you on your toes the entire time, and it feels like every hour it's doing something new. So it's really easy to lose a whole day to it.
Oh, okay, cool. And so, all right, but I promise we're gonna get some good stuff about the Game Awards. But there's two big interesting things, like takeaways from the night that really, they didn't rub me the wrong way. They were just like, this is odd. One, Nintendo had zero presence outside of like 2 commercials, bumpers, advertisements, whatever. And I was just like, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't expecting Super Nintendo Switch, Switch Pro, whatever. I wasn't. I feel like at this point we all confidently know it's either A, not coming, or B, not coming when any of us expect it to come. You know, it'll be a random Wednesday.
They're gonna drop it exactly like at 11:30 at night, and every news writer is gonna be like, "Crap! They just announced the Super Nintendo Switch."
Yeah. So what? But they had nothing. And I was just like, bruh, this is depressing. I'm depressed.
It's the first time I feel like in recent years, at least, where Nintendo has not had a presence. They've actually been kind of one of like Jeff's bigger, I guess supporters or whatever. Like they always have a pretty decent showing. I mean, Smash Bros is done with characters, so that's one aspect of it because we always get a Smash reveal at the Game Awards, and that's not happening anymore. But I was surprised we didn't see anything. I was thinking even maybe like a Xenoblade 3 or Breath of the Wild sequel title drop or something, but yeah, nothing.
Yeah, I was expecting maybe not a new trailer at the very least. Maybe I was thinking maybe we'll get even like the new what next Mario's looking like, a teaser to that, but no, just radio silence. And actually three things. The second thing is the new thing that's now second is, so I understand, like I think we need a definitive answer. When is the cutoff for Game of the Year? Because like, do games released between November and February, do they not count? Well, because Hitman wasn't nominated for anything.
I don't even know. I think it's fine to talk about this. We didn't have any embargoes to sign, but so we had to like send in our like our first round of nominations about like the first or second week of November, and that's like the first culling of nominations, and then we can like adjust the next week or the week after. But I think their nominations are locked in like midway through November. So games like Halo Infinite are pretty much locked out, and it's something everybody talks about. It's so strange that the Game Awards aren't in January. Like, why not just give us the extra month? Let all of 2021 play out. Host the awards in January. What would that change?
Man, nothing. I know LA is a pretty busy city. I'm just gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say, LA is a busy city. They got basketball going on, playoffs, and in any number of musical performances, artists and stuff. Maybe it's just a non-starter for January, I would assume. Yeah. But that means Halo Infinite is basically not nominated for anything. And going into my last thing that I found strange, saying, I said Hitman 3 wasn't there, but so I'm gonna be honest with you, Wesley, and everybody listening. You know how every year people say this is one of the best years gaming's ever had, year in and year out. And year in year I go, yeah, but I'm lying. I honest to God truth, I'm lying. I do not believe that for every new year of gaming. I understand that cool things always happen, but I think back, I'm like, oh, this is no 2013. This is no 2011. This is
2018.
Yeah, 2018. Oof. That. Oof,
I know, right? Yeah.
Oof. That's the year. I was kind of throwing out Blaza years I thought were cool, but yeah, 2018 was the year.
Yeah.
But 2021 unapologetically was one of those years. And it wasn't because there were these AAA giants. There were so many games that came out of nowhere that no one either A, knew about or expected to be good. Hell, I'll even include It Takes Two, But like, you know, we had Metroid Dread, like announcement a month later, the game's out. We had, you know, games that just came out of nowhere, like The Forgotten City. You know, we had stuff like Death's Door. There's Inscription. I can't. If you ask me to remember, yes, people, there's probably like, oh, you're forgetting this and that. But yes, that's the point. 2021 had so many great games out of nowhere. Like if you know, because if you looked on paper, you're like, okay, we're gonna get Halo, we're gonna get Far Cry 6, we're gonna get like Hitman. You know, we're gonna get like kind of like these usual suspects. And on paper, in January this year, it looked very bland. Like everything's got kicked to 2022. Yeah. That's. I think March, that's what I was thinking about this year. Everything's in 2022. This year is bare. This year has nothing.
Yeah.
And then you look back from January until now, and this year just had there's so many great games that people keep buzzing in my ear that I have not played and won't have time to play. Like Psychonauts 2 was like a smash hit. Like that is incredible. And I'm just like, I can't think of a year that had so many games, like handfuls of games that I was not able to play because they were just too much and they came out of just nowhere. And I think this is great. I think, you know, in retrospect, 2021 will be, I won't say the year of the indie, but the year of just, you know, breakout, new stars, so many new people entered the fray.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, this year, to your point, I've played more games this year than any year before. I think I'm close to like 40, which is a lot. That's like 4 games a month for me, which is a lot between work and whatnot. And yeah, to your other point, like indies did break out this year. We had some big AAA releases, but I do think it was a little light comparatively. You know, from Sony, we just had 2, and Halo and Forza were on the Xbox side, which gave games like Death's Door, Inscription, Before Your Eyes, The Forgotten City, these smaller, more independent titles, time to shine. And I think this year really proved that, you know, indies can shine and do shine. Every year we kind of see indies more and more appear in top 10 lists. And I think that's ultimately a great thing.
Yeah. And my point is, so we had so many of these games that were, you know, must plays. Anyone who played any of these games, and, you know, of course, the ones we're not mentioning, you know, I don't have a list in front of me of all, you know, everyone would be like, oh, we had Deltarune Chapter 2, for crying out loud. Dear God.
Yeah.
Like,
surprise announced. Yeah.
Yeah. And we saw none of these games appear in any shape or form at the Game Awards. And I was like, this is so odd. Like, we almost had, like, in terms of, like, the indie space, just kind of like the games we already knew were happening and just, you know, they were already planned to be a thing. And it was just, you know, this should have been the year where, like, games that normally wouldn't have been in categories, I feel like should have filled up the pages. Like, you know, there was no Last of Us Part 2 to win every award imaginable. I'm not hating on The Last of Us Part 2, but the last year's Game Award might as well have been called Welcome to the Last of Us Part 2 induction ceremony.
Yep, and then it did keep so much.
Yeah, just I mean, it's a great game. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's just like, it's one of those things where, like, it's like, I don't think it won every category.
Yeah, no, Final Fantasy VII Remake was my game of the year last year, and that did not win as much as it should have. But you know, Last of Us Part 2, I love that game. Hades was another game that was last year, right?
Yeah,
I know that one got a lot of. I was saying that one, Hades got a lot of you know, talk last year at the Game Awards. That was one of the big standout hits for a lot of outlets and players and stuff. So it was interesting this year. We didn't have any clear winners. I thought Deathloop was actually going to be the one to kind of clean sweep the Game Awards, but it didn't clean up as much as I thought.
Oh yeah, definitely. And no, I'm sorry, I was thinking by Facebook because I was like, Hades is one of those games where it's like, when did it come out? It's one of those games that's like always in, it was like, oh, it's in, you know, early access
in 2019 or 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember at one point I thought Hades was like a Switch exclusive because that's just where everybody was playing it. And then, you know,
it kind of was. I mean, this year was when it came to PlayStation, and Xbox, I think. So last year, well, it was PC exclusive. Then it hit Switch last year, and this year it's finally on other consoles. So they've kind of had a good run for the past couple of years.
Yeah. So I don't know. So I guess my question is like, I don't think the Game Awards can survive at its current rate. But I'm not sure what it could do. Like, I mean, on paper, it's like we know what it should do. And, you know, I'm starting to think maybe it just has to be a smaller show. I mean, it has to be more like, because, I mean, I think of like the DICE Awards. You know, the DICE Awards is what, like 50 people?
Yeah.
And, you know,
There's all awards, no announcements.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it has to be that. You know, I think the world reveal trailers are cool and all that. Like, I enjoy that.
Yeah.
You know, none of them blew me away this year from my personal taste, but I enjoy being like, oh, cool, you know, the excitement, what's next, what's behind this door. But, you know, I just really hope Keighley just, you know, takes the feedback, you know, the constructive feedback. And I think the awards can't survive in its current form, and it's going to have to change. And, you know, I don't know the money financial. Like I said, if it has to be a smaller show in the sense that maybe like a smaller venue in January, like maybe it can be in, you know, the glitz and glamour of LA, but it can be, you know, in I don't know, Chicago in
Ohio.
You know, where, you know,
bring it to Florida.
Yeah, the Grand Ole Opry. I mean the Tennessee ain't got nothing going on, right?
Yeah. He's definitely he is pretty good about feedback. I mean, every Game Awards he immediately tweets out after it, like, what did you think? Give me all your feedback. And he says he goes through and reads everything. I think his big takeaway this year will be to trim the show down in some way. 3 hours is tough, especially when you start so late. I mean, I guess on the West Coast, it's not that late, but for everybody else, you know, we're watching until 10 p.m., 11 p.m. If you're in Europe, I've got a lot of European friends in journalism. They were up till like 4 a.m. last night covering this. And when you have to cover 3 hours of stuff, it's brutal. I think, like we mentioned at the top of the show, you could easily cut this down at least by half, right? Like, you could get this down to an hour and a half.
Oh yeah, most definitely. And before we sign off, I like to end things always on a positive note. What was your favorite part from the show? You know, announcement, trailer, you know, quirky little thing, whatever that happened.
Gosh. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you, where there wasn't like anything super standout that like had me freaking out. I was really hoping that we'd see the new BioShock, because rumors have been popping up about that lately and supposed leaks. And I was like, you know what? If it's coming next year, maybe we see a trailer. I would have probably lost my mind for that. I was hoping to see like a Bloodborne remaster, because apparently that's in the works, but you know, who knows? So I didn't really have anything that like blew my socks off. The let's think here. What game was I super excited about? The Quantic Dream Star Wars game, that looked amazing. I mean, Quantic Dream, not a great track record as far as treating their employees and whatnot, and lots of bad blood there. But you know, I saw Star Wars on screen, and I'm gonna get excited because it's Star Wars. You know, that's a given for me. But gosh, yeah, let me look up a list real quick of stuff. That's like how the show overall was kind of boring for me, and this should kind of give you an indication, because I don't even remember what my favorite announcement was.
Oh yeah.
What was your favorite though?
Yeah, so no, the show was, if I'm being honest, it was boring for me too. It was kind of like, I remember looking at my phone and being like, we're not done with the first hour, jeez. This is about to be rough.
Yeah. Wonder Woman, that was a cool announcement. Finally. Apparently it's going to use the Nemesis system from Shadow of Mordor. And it's crazy that nothing has used that system. And I'm excited to see how a Wonder Woman game does it. Looking here, the Hellblade 2 trailer was cool. Pretty long, though. A little too long, in my opinion. But man, that game looks stunning. Cuphead DLC. Okay, now that I'm looking, there's actually some things I'm excited about. The Cuphead DLC was really cool looking.
You know, the sad part is that all this stuff was like in the first hour. That's probably why.
Yeah. My thing is, like, if he wants to do the reveals, like, do an hour of reveals and just let people know, like, the first hour of the show, I'm going to be showing you trailers and stuff you want to see. The second hour of the show, we're going to have the awards. Every single person that wins can come on stage and give a speech for a couple minutes. You know, we're not going to time people out after 30 seconds. I think that would be, like, a good way to do it. I mean, maybe it kills pacing for the wider audience, but I think people that are, play games and whatnot, people in the industry and just general gamers would appreciate that. Sit back for an hour, watch some reveals, and then see who wins Game of the Year.
Yeah, if I'm being perfectly honest, I highly doubt the VGA has a wider audience. Like I'll be hard pressed to believe that someone who really isn't, is kind of blasé into gaming would even take the time to even look at this.
Yeah, they're probably just going to look up the Game Awards announcement stories that outlets write and then just kind of scroll through and see what happened.
Yeah, but to answer your question, my favorite reveal part was honestly, Shadow of the Breath of the Wild Sonic. That was it for me. That was kind of like, people be like, oh, what? Every game is not copying Breath of the Wild. It's not. Breath of the Wild didn't invent open worlds, but dear God, everything sure does look like it now.
Yeah. There was the other game, Tachia or Lachia. I can't remember the name, but that looked exactly like Breath of the Wild. Like, I had the paraglider, same systems and stuff. We saw, and then, like the Sonic game you mentioned, definitely seems like the Sonic Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna knock the open world format. It Zelda, reinvented open world, and we see things like Halo doing it, and clearly it works. It can work across any genre. Apparently, it's not limited to action adventure, and people have found great success with it. So I don't know what the hell an open world Sonic would look like. It kind of boggles my mind. There's a giant robot thing scoping the land. There seems to be a lot going on. But I'm here for it, because at the end of the day, if you get the running and speed right, and you're telling me I can just kind of run around and just do cool stuff as Sonic, I think you're halfway there.
I agree. Yeah, that's like probably the most exciting part is that it'll be an open world. Like you can just run as Sonic as fast as you can. I mean, we obviously get to go fast in Sonic games, but it's always kind of been either like on rails or kind of just going forward. But to have this giant open plane where we can just, go fast, that's going to be super exciting for Sonic if it's pulled off correctly.
Yeah, and assuming, like you said, pulled off correctly, I can imagine it being like, you have like speed meters and things that, you can't just run infinitely fast, but, it could be things like, oh man, there's something across the lake, but it's going to create, like I got to get the right amount of speed, the right lane, the right drift, all these factors and, and I don't know, you get stronger somehow. So I don't know. Yeah. So like, could you? I'm in my mind. I'm being super like there's like tons of secrets in the game. There's like a super secret that involves you like you got to perfectly run across the ocean and through these mountains, and you basically can't mess up once. And you got to have like extreme precision, and if you make it, you find this super thing. I don't know, but it just seems I'm rooting for it. I'm always rooting for my boy. So we'll see. But yeah, that was the coolest announcement for me. I'm pretty sure you know what? You know how I knew this Game Awards wasn't it? People wasn't like losing their mind over the Elden Ring stuff. That's how I knew something might be wrong.
Yeah, that too. I'm actually in the same boat. I'm so excited about Elden Ring, but I watched the trailer and I was just kind of numb to it. I don't know if it's because I've seen a lot of Elden Ring or if I just don't want to see any more before February or if it was the show's fault. But like, I was like, why am I not getting hyped and freaking out? And I was with some friends and their bread and butter is From Software. Like that is they love From Software games and not even they were like freaking out. So, interesting. That's actually a really good thermometer for the show for sure.
But Wesley, man, I appreciate you joining me, having this, Game Awards recap, with your busy schedule, over there doing the damn thing at Game Informer. But, where can the people find you, keep up with you, see all your work, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, you can find me at GameInformer.com. I cover a lot of news, some features, doing a lot of video stuff too. And on Twitter, you can find me at LeBlanc West. I'm usually pretty good about tweeting out my stories and talking about them. If you just want to talk to me about games, hit me up and let's do the thing. I'm a Final Fantasy 13 defender, so you'll see lots of tweets about why Final Fantasy 13 is one of the best. And I think that we need more pirates in video games. So if you want to see me talk about why video games need to add pirates, then I got you covered.
Oh man, I wish you would have said that. I should have asked you that question way earlier because Final Fantasy 13 almost exclusively turned me off from 3D Final Fantasy.
Oh no! Look, I sympathize with people's like problems with it. That was my first Final Fantasy that I bought with my own money. I was on my 360. That was pretty new to me. The music in that game, in my opinion, is still some of the best in Final Fantasy 13. I had a little crush on Lightning, as a young, I've been 12 years old. She was my girlfriend. It was a good time, Final Fantasy 13, I hold it dear to my heart.
Yeah, I haven't played 13.2 or 13.3, but I hear people, usually, hold those in a higher regard. I probably never will. I just ain't got the time for it in my current life. But I will say this.
That's fair.
Final Fantasy 13's combat was the precursor to Final Fantasy 7 Remake's combat. So I always tell people, without Final Fantasy 13, there is no Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I truly believe that.
Yes, absolutely. And Final Fantasy 7 Remake is one of the best Final Fantasy games.
Yeah.
So again, we can give thanks to the Holy Lord Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, because I've had this talk with people. They'll be like, "Oh, Final Fantasy 14." They're like, it was so good. It was this and that. I'm kind of a mixed bag for Final Fantasy 14. I don't think it was bad. I don't think it's great. It's just a lukewarm good in my mind. But that was like, that combat was evolved to Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I'm like, no, Final Fantasy 13's combat evolved to Final Fantasy 7 Remake. I don't know why people can't see that.
Yes, it's because they're blind. They're blinded by light. For Final Fantasy 13 fans, that is one of the main songs in the game. You're welcome. We'll play on of words for you.
Okay, but man, again, thank you for joining me. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a good time.
I plan on collabing with you, sometime in the new year. But people, remember, you can find the show at FC Podcast 23 on Twitter, Instagram. Again, you can find me at Harmon Jr. We do this every week. We will be taking a break for Christmas, so there's only 2 more shows of the year, not 3. Just keep that in mind. But we're going to do it big in the new year as always. And as always, have a great week and be blessed. Bye.
Bye, everybody.